In today's episode, I attempt to answer the following question. Can we preserve our minds and stay intellectually productive as we age? Let's dive in.
Age is, of course, a fever chill that every physicist must fear. He's better dead than living still when once he's past his 30th year. Paul Dirac.
Unfortunately, I'm something of a poster child for cognitive decline. While learning JavaScript in your 20s is foolhardy, trying to learn JavaScript in your 50s is batshit crazy. Make the pain stop. The problem is that from early adulthood onward, our fluid intelligence, the ability to think abstractly, reason, and solve complex problems, begins its slow, relentless decline. Alas, the productivity of older mathematicians, physicists, and JavaScript coders dwindle as their fluid intelligence evaporates like dew in the morning sun.
The years teach much, which the days never know. Ralph Waldo Emerson.
However, the loss of fluid intelligence is but a small piece of the cognitive aging puzzle. For example, consider the fact that the peak productivity of CEOs occurs in their early to mid-60s, well past their peak fluid intelligence. Clearly, there's more to cognition than raw problem-solving ability.
You can't help getting older, but you don't have to get old. George Burns.
The first clue that helps explain the riddle of the old CEO is the fact that people's brains age at different rates. Take one study, where despite every participant being 45 years old, the measured brain ages ranged from 24 to 72 years old. That's right, there were some 45-year-old participants with a brain of a 24-year-old and other 45-year-old participants with the brain of a 72-year-old. While some aspects of brain age are due to genetics, lifestyle also plays a crucial role in the rate of brain aging. For example, smoking, regular consumption of alcohol, or both, markedly increases your rate of brain aging. In contrast, education, physical activity, and meditation all slow down brain aging. So, while you can't stop your brain from aging, you can certainly slow it down.
Anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. Henry Ford.
Unlike your declining fluid intelligence, knowledge increases as you age. And make no mistake, an old CEO's superpower is their deep expertise that allows them to solve complex, seemingly intractable problems on the fly. For this reason, I have one simple recommendation for every aging adult. Take advantage of your ability to accumulate knowledge and cultivate a love of learning.
Knowledge speaks, but wisdom listens. Jimi Hendrix.
Wisdom represents the integration of intelligence, knowledge, insight, and compassion that empowers you to make strategically and emotionally sound decisions. While aging itself does not guarantee wisdom, after all, there's no fool like an old fool. It does provide increased opportunities and potential for developing wisdom. Furthermore, current evidence suggests that social and emotional components of wisdom increase with age. Crucially, wisdom can be improved through deliberate practice. This accumulation of wisdom explains why an old CEO is a wise CEO.
I have learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. Maya Angelou.
Emotional intelligence represents our ability to recognize, understand, and masterfully navigate the complex landscape of emotions. Crucially, a recent study that analyzed over 65,000 entrepreneurs found that emotional intelligence is twice as important as general intelligence for entrepreneurial success. Fortunately, emotional intelligence improves with age, as older adults typically experience more positive emotions, greater emotional stability, and surprisingly, more complex emotional understanding than their younger counterparts. The older CEO knows that emotional intelligence can be continually developed and strengthened throughout your life, offering a pathway to continual growth and self-mastery.
The older the fiddler, the sweeter the tune. English proverb.
Can you pursue the path of creativity as you age? Absolutely. For example, Artists and thought leaders whose creativity peaks later in life typically work in fields that integrate knowledge and wisdom, such as history and philosophy. Take the philosopher Immanuel Kant, who didn't begin producing novel ideas until his late 50s, or Giuseppe Verdi, who composed his masterpiece, Falstaff, at 80 years of age. In addition, there are at least two modes of creativity. The first are those with a spark of genius, whose blazing intellects flare at a young age and then fade rapidly. Much more relevant are the old masters, whose lifetime of experimentation, learning, and the diligent practice of their craft culminates in a creative peak that occurs much later in life. One such old master is the artist Paul Cézanne, who was churning out works of art right up until his death at age 67.
The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. Plutarch.
If you're over 40 and still believe that you're destined for mathematical greatness or JavaScript mastery, well, it's time to put the crack pipe down and get serious. The cold, hard truth is that intellectual pursuits that rely heavily on fluid intelligence are simply not a realistic option for people over the age of 40. Deal. However, by strategically selecting intellectual pursuits that integrate knowledge, wisdom, emotional intelligence, and creativity, it is indeed possible to live an intellectual and creative life right till the end. Focus your efforts on becoming an old master, not an old has-been. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more episodes of Heroic Aging. This episode was written and created by Gus. The soundtrack, Cliff, was composed by the musical genius Hara Noda and licensed through Epidemic Sound.